The silence inside ADX Florence, the most secure prison in the United States, was so heavy it felt alive. Deep underground, where the lights never fully dimmed and the concrete walls never softened, a storm was building. Guards knew something was wrong before they even reached the cell. Radios buzzed with static. Cameras blinked off and on. A siren gave a single broken cry and then went silent, as if it was afraid to speak. At the end of the long hallway, behind a door made of steel thick enough to stop a missile, sat the one man the entire prison worried about more than any other. Joaquín El Chapo Guzmán. After escaping Mexican prisons twice, once through a laundry cart and once through a tunnel dug right beneath the floor of his shower, he now lived under the strictest isolation any inmate in America had ever faced. No hugs. No fresh air except for 1 hour a day in a concrete box. No human contact. No sunlight hitting his skin. And no chance to escape. At least, that's what the United States believed. But this morning, something was different. Something was wrong. 3 guards, a lieutenant, and the warden walked carefully toward El Chapo's cell. Every step echoed like a hammer hitting a drum. The warden held a folder stamped with red letters. Urgent, security breach, Chapo unit. When they reached the cell, the lieutenant typed in a code and placed his hand against the scanner. The steel door slid open 3 inches, just enough for the small viewing window to clear. The warden froze. Where is he? El Chapo was gone. His mattress was empty. His metal desk was untouched. His jumpsuit hung neatly on its hook. But the man they had spent years trying to contain, the man whose name shook entire countries, was not in his cell. How is this possible? The lieutenant whispered. The warden stepped closer, eyes wide. Check the cameras. Check the logs. Check everything. But before any guard could react, every single light in the hallway shut off. Blackout. The kind of darkness that didn't just cover your eyes, it swallowed you whole. The guards shouted. Their voices bounced off the walls. Flashlights. Flashlights now. Then a sound echoed through the hallway. A single tap. Then another. Then another. Tap, tap, tap. And then the lights flickered. Once. Twice. When they came back on, even the strongest guards felt their hearts stop. Because El Chapo Guzmán, who had been missing seconds earlier, was now standing right behind the warden. Calm. Silent. Smiling. A tiny, almost friendly smile. Not wild. Not shocked. Not rushed. A smile that said, "You didn't expect this." The guard stepped back, terrified. No one understood how he had moved. No one understood how he had gotten out. No one understood how he had appeared behind them without making a sound. El Chapo raised a single finger and pointed toward the ceiling. Then he whispered, "It begins." And the lights died completely. Chapter 1 freezes here. To understand how the world's most famous escape artist could stand inside a Supermax hallway, behind the warden, without setting off a single alarm. To understand why his isolation was so extreme, why he was watched every minute, and why the United States built an entire system to keep him trapped. We must go back. Back to before ADX Florence. Back to before the trial. Back to before the extradition. Back to when El Chapo's name became known around the world. Joaquín Guzmán was born in Sinaloa, Mexico, in a small rural town where life was tough and opportunities were few. The land was dry, the soil hard, and many families struggled to survive. El Chapo helped his parents farm, carrying heavy fruit crates before he was even a teenager. People in his village said he was quiet. Polite. Always watching. He didn't talk much, but he learned quickly. As he grew older, he moved closer to men whose names carried weight in the streets, people who ran operations far beyond anything he had ever seen. El Chapo didn't rise because he was the tallest or the loudest. He rose because he was always thinking. Always planning. Always watching the mistakes others made. And people noticed. In time, he became part of one of the most powerful groups in Mexico. The group handled trade routes, money, and secret pathways across mountains and cities. El Chapo proved he could move things fast, safely, and quietly. People trusted him. Some feared him. Others respected him. But in a world where trust is thin and danger is thick, rises often come with enemies. El Chapo became a name whispered in fear and surprise. Newspapers printed stories about his operations. Police across Mexico conducted raids. And after years of chasing him, they caught him. He was sent to prison. People expected him to stay locked away. But El Chapo had other plans. The first escape happened inside a Mexican prison where guards helped push a laundry cart across the yard. The cart rolled through a door, past a gate, past a guard station, and out into the world. By the time anyone noticed he was gone, El Chapo had disappeared. The second escape was even stranger. It involved a tunnel beneath his shower, built with lights, rails, and a motorcycle-like cart designed to move at high speed. Someone had dug it perfectly beneath his cell, even though the prison supposedly had tight security. People asked, how is this possible? The answer was the same as before. El Chapo watched. El Chapo planned. El Chapo waited. And when the moment came, he was gone again. After the second escape, the United States stepped in. Mexico agreed to extradite him. The US promised he would never escape again. Ever. They took him to the most secure place they had, ADX Florence. A prison built to break a man's connection to the world. A place designed so no one could run, dig, trick, or fight their way out. No handshakes. No group meals. No touching. No whispers. His cell was a concrete box with a narrow window that pointed at the sky. He ate alone. He exercised alone. His shower turned off automatically. The doors locked with electronics and reinforced metal. Every step he took was watched. Every movement recorded. Every second monitored. But the guards who worked there claimed El Chapo always had the same look in his eyes. The same quiet calm he had back in Sinaloa. Some said he was planning. Others said he was remembering. Others said he simply didn't care about escape anymore. But no one truly knew. Now, back in the present, the guards inside ADX had their answer. He wasn't done. He wasn't broken. He wasn't trapped in his cell, the cell was trapped with him. The hallway remained dark as the guards scrambled to find their flashlights. One officer accidentally dropped his, and it rolled across the floor, spinning, the beam shaking wildly before it stopped. The warden's voice cracked through the darkness. Chapo. Don't move. But the whisper that came back wasn't scared. Or angry. Or rushed. It was calm. You built a cage, El Chapo said softly in the dark. But you forgot the mind. Then, far below the cell block, a deep rumbling sound echoed through the prison. Low. Loud. Growing. Something, somewhere, was moving. The guards froze. The warden shouted into a dead radio. Then the rumbling grew louder. Closer. And closer. Until... boom. A shockwave shook the entire hallway. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lights flickered. A siren finally screamed back to life. Metal groaned deep beneath the building. The guards spun toward the sound. What was that? Someone yelled. The lieutenant took a scared breath. That, he said, his voice trembling, came from the underground mechanical bay, the one right below Chapo's unit. The warden turned toward the dark space where El Chapo had been standing before the blackout. But he was gone. Gone again. Find him, the warden roared. Now. The guards sprinted down the hallway. They reached the corner. They aimed their flashlights around it. And they stopped dead in their tracks. Because the steel floor grate leading to the underground maintenance tunnels, the grate that was locked with a reinforced bolt, was open. And below it, the tunnel lights were flickering, one by one, leading into the darkness. Like someone had just gone down there. The tunnel breathed warm air up through the open grate, like the ground itself had a heartbeat. Dust swirled under the flashlight beams, dancing in nervous circles. None of the guards wanted to be the first to climb down. No one said it out loud, but every man standing around that hole was thinking the same thing. El Chapo should not be able to do this. Not here. Not in ADX. Not again. The warden swallowed hard. 2 officers down, he ordered. Stick together. Slow and careful. No one moved. He raised his voice. Now. The first guard forced himself to descend the metal ladder. Each rung creaked under his weight. The second guard followed close behind, breathing fast, flashlight shaking in his hand. When their boots hit the concrete floor below, both men froze. Because the tunnel wasn't quiet. Far in the darkness, something metallic clanged. Then again. And again. Clang. 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 Like someone striking a pipe rhythmically, sending a message. The warden climbed halfway down the ladder, leaning into the dark. What do you see? He called. The guards aimed their flashlights forward. The beam cut through the air, revealing a long underground corridor lined with pipes, wires, and maintenance panels. Everything looked old, dusty, untouched, except for one thing. A fresh footprint in the dirt. Small. Precise. Moving forward. It's him, the first guard whispered. They followed the prints carefully, inching forward. The warden climbed down and joined them. Above them, more officers gathered at the grate, weapons ready, faces pale. The deeper they walked, the hotter the air became. Something mechanical hummed loudly ahead, something that wasn't supposed to be running. The warden's voice cracked. That shouldn't be on. The underground systems are shut down at night. The humming grew louder. They turned a corner. And all three men stopped so fast their boots screeched. Because standing in the middle of the tunnel was someone wearing an ADX gray inmate uniform. Not El Chapo. Someone else. Someone they didn't expect. The man stood perfectly still, face half hidden in shadow, hands at his sides, calm as a statue. The second guard whispered, "Who is that?" The warden stepped closer. "Identify yourself." The inmate didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't even breathe loudly. He simply lifted one arm, slowly, and pointed to the right. Toward a massive steel door. The warden's heart dropped. "That door leads to the old ventilation sector," he whispered. "It's been sealed for years." "Why is it open?" the guard asked. And then they saw it. The door was unlocked. Slightly ajar. A crack wider than a hand. The inmate lowered his arm. The warden stared at him. "Where is Chapo?" he asked. The inmate finally spoke. His voice was soft, almost gentle. "He taught us to watch." The guards exchanged terrified glances. The warden stepped forward. "How did you get down here? Who opened that door?" The inmate's eyes drifted toward the shadows. "He moves in silence," he said quietly. "Always has." The warden raised his radio to call for backup, forgetting for a moment that it was dead. No signal. Just static. Then, the lights overhead flickered. Once. Twice. Then fully shut off. Total darkness. The officers yelled. The inmate vanished, footsteps disappearing into the echo around them. Something metal slammed shut behind them. The warden spun. The door, the door. Check the door. The guards scrambled backward, shining flashlights wildly. The steel entryway they came through was now closed. Locked from the outside. They were trapped. "Open it," the warden shouted. One guard tried the handle. It didn't budge. "Try again. Harder." Nothing. The warden's breath quickened. "We need to move forward. It's the only way." They turned toward the open ventilation sector door and stepped inside. The flashlight beams slid across old pipes, rust-covered machines, and long-abandoned boxes stacked against the wall. It looked like a forgotten part of the prison, dusty, untouched, unused. But in the middle of the floor were footprints. The same ones from before. Leading deeper into the dark. The warden lifted his flashlight higher, and it found something on the wall, a message scratched into the metal. 3 words. "Silence has paths." The guard swallowed hard. "What does that even mean?" The warden whispered, "It means he's using spaces we don't monitor." They followed the footprints deeper until they reached a tight corner. And that's when they heard it. A voice. A real voice. Speaking Spanish softly. Calmly. Smoothly. It wasn't a shout. It wasn't a cry. It was almost gentle. Like someone having a conversation with no fear at all. The warden held up a hand. "Listen." They all froze. The voice was clearer now. "El mundo cree que estoy encerrado." The world thinks I am locked away. Another pause. Pero la meant no team pads. But the mind has no walls. The guards looked at each other. "That's him," one whispered. "That's Chapo." The warden gripped his flashlight tightly. "Turn the corner slowly," he ordered. They moved. 1 step. 2. 3. Their flashlights swept across the darkness, revealing a narrow metal walkway above a huge ventilation shaft. And standing on the walkway, his back to them, hands behind him like he was observing the world, was El Chapo. Calm. Still. Almost peaceful. "Guzmán," the warden shouted. "Don't move." El Chapo turned around slowly, his expression unreadable. "You shouldn't have come down here," he said. "This place is not for you." The guards raised their weapons. The warden stepped forward. "How did you get out of your cell?" El Chapo smiled faintly. "You think a locked door is the same as control? You Americans believe steel can beat memory. You believe cameras can beat careful eyes." He stepped forward on the walkway. "I have lived my whole life watching, planning, listening. I know walls better than the men who build them." The warden tightened his jaw. "This is over. You're surrounded." El Chapo raised an eyebrow. surrounded. Suddenly, the walkway shook violently beneath them. The guards froze. "What was that?" someone shouted. The warden looked down into the shaft. Dark shapes were moving below. Mechanical arms. Fans. Platforms. Something was powering up. El Chapo's smile widened just a little. "You locked me in a box," he said. "But you placed that box on top of another world. One you forgot existed." Alarms began blaring in the tunnel. A siren. Red lights. A mechanical grinding sound. The guard stumbled. "What is that?" the lieutenant yelled. El Chapo took a single step backward. "You called this the place no one escapes. A perfect cage. A dead end." He spread his hands slightly. "A dead end only for men who stop imagining." The walkway shook again. Harder. Metal groaned. El Chapo took another step back toward the shadows at the far end of the walkway. "You cannot stop what you do not understand," he said. The warden stepped forward desperately. "Stop. Don't take another step." But El Chapo smiled, small, soft, certain. And then another massive tremor rocked the entire ventilation sector. The floor beneath their feet vibrated so violently that the guards grabbed the railing. Dust rained from the ceiling. Pipes rattled. Lights flickered wildly. The warden looked down again. And his face went pale. Because below the walkway, a platform was rising, lifting up out of the darkness, with a figure standing on it. Not El Chapo. Someone else. Someone tall. Someone heavy. Someone wearing inmate gray. Someone who should have been miles from this sector. A man the US government feared almost as much as Chapo himself. The warden whispered. "No, no, this can't be happening." The platform kept rising. The figure lifted his head. And the light hit his face.